I walked into the kitchen just after 10, craving nothing more than a glass of water and silence. The house had been tense for days, but I'd learned to tread lightly, to slip between tempers and egos like smoke under a door. The faucet creaked as I filled my glass. The water was cool against my fingers. Then I heard his voice, sharp, sudden, too close. "You went through my drawer, didn't you?" Deacon stood in the doorway, arms crossed, jaw tight. His eyes, always a little too wild, burned through me. I blinked. "What no? I don't even go in your room." "You're lying." His voice pitched up, slicing the air. "You took it. I had cash there yesterday. It's gone. I don't care about your cash," I said quietly, setting the glass down before my hands started shaking. "I haven't touched anything. Maybe check the bar tab from last night. That did it." He crossed the kitchen in 3 strides, and before I could even step back, his palm slammed into my shoulder. My back hit the fridge so hard the magnets popped off. Then came the elbow driven into my side with brutal precision. I heard it before I felt it. A sharp, hollow snap like a wishbone breaking. My breath vanished. The pain was white-hot, immediate. My knees gave out. I dropped glass, shattering beside me. I clutched my side, trying to inhale, but couldn't. I gasped. I can't breathe. Somewhere behind me, the TV was still playing. From the living room, my mother's voice floated in, unconcerned. "Oh, honey, not this again?" I crawled toward the hallway, the phone trembling in my hand. I'd managed to dial 911 before she appeared. Lenora plucked the phone from my fingers like she was picking lint off her shirt. "Don't call the cops," she said, not even looking at me. "You'll ruin his future. He has that interview tomorrow." I looked past her toward the couch. My dad sat there, half laughing, shoving popcorn into his mouth. "You're so dramatic," he muttered. I lay there on the tile ribs, screaming blood in my mouth, watching them return to their show like nothing had happened. And Deacon, he opened the fridge and pulled out a soda, stepping over me without flinching. I lay on the couch with a pillow pressed gently against my side, each breath a jagged shard of pain. The living room spun slowly like I'd been caught in a storm that only I seemed to notice. Lenora walked in with a bottle of Tylenol and a glass of lukewarm tap water, placing them on the coffee table like it was just another Tuesday. "Take 2. You'll be fine," she said, her voice flat. "Probably just a bruise." I didn't answer. I couldn't. My body was screaming, but I was learning how to mute myself in their presence. Deacon strolled in behind her cereal bowl in one hand, phone in the other, whistling some careless tune. He didn't even look at me. Sat at the dining table, started scrolling through emails like he hadn't knocked the air out of my lungs hours earlier. Mom turned on the news and leaned back with a sigh. "Let's just get through this week. If Deacon lands that job, everything changes." That was the anthem of our household. If Deacon gets this, if Deacon makes it. Don't mess things up for Deacon. He was their golden shield, the perfect son on paper. What wasn't written on that resume, he'd failed. 2 semesters of college, crashed his first car drunk, and once cursed out a professor online so viciously the school made him attend a mediation session. But no one talked about that. Instead, they printed his resume like it was scripture, laminated his lies, and hung them up with pride. And me, I was the cleanup crew. The one who said it was her fault when the school called. The one who paid the phone bill when Deacon forgot. The one who took the heat for the fake internship log he submitted senior year. I'd swallowed the blame so often, I stopped noticing the aftertaste. But that night, lying there on the couch chest, aching, I saw it clearly. For the first time, they weren't blind to what he was. They just didn't care what it cost me to protect him. And I wasn't going to do it anymore. The bathroom door clicked shut behind me. For the first time in hours, I was alone, just me, the mirror, and the pounding ache in my ribs. I peeled up my shirt slowly, one trembling hand at a time. The pain flared hot as fabric brushed against my skin. The bruise had bloomed deep and ugly black at the center, rimmed in angry purples and sickly yellows. It looked like something rotten under glass. I swallowed hard, blinking fast. Then I turned on the light above the mirror, pulled out my phone, and hit record. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. The camera caught the rise and fall of my chest, how shallow the breaths were, how I flinched just turning sideways. I tilted the phone toward the mirror, capturing the mottled bruise from a different angle, the way it wrapped around my ribcage like a handprint carved into flesh. Then I scrolled to the voice memos and replayed the audio I'd captured the night before. My mother's voice played clear as glass. "Don't call the cops. You'll ruin his future." I saved the video, backed it up to the cloud, and emailed it to myself with a blank subject line. Then I sat on the edge of the tub, clutching my phone like it was the only solid thing left in the world. In that moment, I saw my whole life like a film reel unraveling how many times I'd cleaned up Deacon's messes, how often I'd given up pieces of myself to keep the illusion intact. When he cheated on his girlfriend and begged me to lie, I did. When he used my name to get a credit card, I kept quiet. When he told Mom I'd crashed the car he wrecked, I accepted the punishment. Because I was always the quieter one, the helper, the buffer, the girl who understood the pressure he was under. But not anymore. This time I had bruises that wouldn't fade overnight. This time I had evidence. This time I wasn't going to delete it. I locked the screen and stood up, already planning what to record next. I stayed quiet the next morning. Not out of fear, something colder had settled in me. A silence with edges. While Deacon grunted his way through a protein shake and Mom chirped about ironing his shirt for the interview, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and a pain in my ribs that hadn't dulled. I uploaded everything to a secure drive: photos, videos, audio clips. I created multiple backups and emailed them to myself under different aliases. I didn't know exactly how I'd use them yet, but I knew better than to leave the truth in just one place. That night, Deacon left his laptop open at the dining table screen, glowing with arrogance. He was scrolling through his resume again, rehearsing fake humility. "They're looking for someone fresh," he said to Mom. "Someone with real-world grit." "I just need to ace the interview." I leaned over his shoulder to clear my plate, and there it was, his list of references, all neatly formatted. And in the middle, Professor Adelaide Carmichael. The same professor he'd publicly cursed out on Twitter 2 years ago for failing him. He'd called her a washed-up hack with a vendetta. I casually walked away, returned later, and snapped a photo of the screen, just in case. Later that night, while everyone else slept, I opened the drawer in my room where I'd hidden the letter. My hands shook as I unfolded it. I'd read it so many times the edges had gone soft. The design program in Chicago, the one I'd applied to before Mom said it was selfish to leave, had reapproved my admission, this time with a full scholarship, housing included. I wouldn't owe anyone anything. All I had to do was say yes. I looked around my room, the faded wallpaper, the hollow hum of the central air. Then I opened a new browser window and searched for the startup Deacon was interviewing with. HR contact. Submissions portal. Anonymous reporting link. The next click came easier than I expected. I sent the file just before sunrise. The email was short, no flourish, no signature. I attached everything: the photos of my bruised ribs, the clip of Mom warning me not to call the police, the screenshot of Deacon's resume with Professor Carmichael's name glowing like a lie in bold font, and the urgent care report confirming the fracture. In the body of the email, I wrote one line: "This is who you're considering to represent your brand." I hit send. Then I closed the laptop, slid it under my bed, and lay back down, staring at the ceiling as the sky lightened into morning. The waiting was the hardest part. Every knock on the door, every buzz of a phone made my breath tighten. But nothing happened that day. Not yet. It was the next afternoon when the storm finally cracked. Deacon came through the front door like a fireball, slamming it so hard the frame rattled. I was in the hallway folding laundry, close enough to hear the tremble in his voice before the words fully landed. "They canceled," he barked. "The startup. They said something came up with my background. Check said they'd received an anonymous file with serious allegations. What the hell's going on?" I stayed still, fingers locked around a towel I hadn't finished folding. Mom jumped up from the couch, rushing toward him. "What do you mean?" "Canceled." That was your shot, baby. Did you call them back? Explain it was fake. They had everything, he said, shaking. They knew her about the Carmichael thing, the fake internship, even the fight. The fight, Mom whispered. They said there was a medical report. Photos. Silence fell. I held my breath. From the corner of my eye, I saw Deacon's head turn. He scanned the hallway. His eyes locked on mine. You, he growled. I didn't blink. I didn't speak. I just turned and walked back to my room, closing the door behind me. I heard him yell again, but it sounded distant, like something breaking behind glass. The yelling didn't stop for days. Deacon tore through the house like a storm that couldn't find a place to land, slamming doors, shouting at no one, muttering to himself about lawsuits and character assassination. I kept my door locked and my headphones in, but the walls weren't thick enough to block out rage like his. Lenora cried a lot. Not for me, not for what had been done to me, but for him, her broken golden boy. She paced the kitchen, wringing her hands, whispering about lost opportunities and ruined futures. They don't know him, she said more than once. He just made a mistake. They didn't ask how I was doing. They never had. So I redirected my silence into action. I dug through old drawers and found them receipts, transfer confirmations, emails from Mom, marked urgent, asking for just a little help this month. There were dozens. Every time I'd handed over my paycheck, every time she'd drained my account with the promise of paying it back once things settled, I had documented it. I scanned and sorted everything. Then I sent it all to a legal aid nonprofit I'd found the week before, along with a short summary of what had happened over the years. Abuse, coercion, theft. I expected them to take a while, maybe send back a polite form email. They called me the next day. The woman on the line had a calm, clipped voice and asked a few clarifying questions. Then she said the words I didn't know I'd been waiting for. This qualifies as financial abuse. We can help you. But that wasn't all. She'd also pulled public records, including something I hadn't even thought to check the deed to the house. Your grandfather's will named you sole beneficiary, she said. The property was transferred into a trust in your name when you turned 18. Yet you've been the legal owner for 6 years. For a full minute, I couldn't speak. I looked around my room, the peeling paint, the dented doorknob, the walls that had heard every time I cried quietly into a pillow. The house they used to trap me in had been mine all along. I printed the eviction notice on thick cardstock, the kind that didn't bend easily. It came out of the printer with a hum and a finality that made my fingers tingle. I clipped it to the front of the fridge right beside a copy of my medical report. Neither one screamed, but both spoke clearly. I went back to my room and waited. It didn't take long. Deacon was the first to see it. I heard the scrape of the fridge handle, then a pause, then a sharp laugh that didn't reach the end of the hallway. "You've got to be kidding me," he shouted. "This some kind of joke." Lenora rushed in next, gasping like she'd seen a ghost. You didn't. Tell me this isn't what it looks like." Rick came in, last slower, face already turning red. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I stepped out, calmly, folder in hand. "It's exactly what it looks like. You have 30 days. Lenora's face crumpled. "Sweetheart, we raised you. This is your family." Deacon ripped the paper off the fridge and threw it across the kitchen. "You think you can just kick us out? Who do you think you are?" I didn't answer. I just stood still. Then he charged. The second his foot hit the floor toward me, I picked up the phone and dialed. 911. "What's your emergency?" "Yes," I said, voice steady. "I need officers at my residence. There's been a physical threat from a family member and I'd like it documented." Deacon stopped in his tracks like someone had slapped him from across the room. His hands fell to his sides, knuckles twitching. Mom gasped. Rick cursed. But no one moved to stop me. When the officers arrived, I met them at the door with the same folder copies of everything. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just told the truth. No arrests were made. But a report was filed, a line was drawn. And when the door shut behind the officers, the silence in the room told me something had finally shifted. They left on a Tuesday. Deacon stormed out first, dragging 2 ripped garbage bags behind him, stuffing them angrily into the back of a rusted-out sedan. Lenora was right behind, yelling half-sentences that didn't land something about family, about betrayal, about how I destroyed everything for no reason. She didn't pause at the threshold, didn't look back. Rick didn't say a word, just walked out the door with his shoulders hunched and eyes on the ground like the weight of it all had finally sunk in. Or maybe he just didn't want to see what I'd become. When the front door clicked shut for the last time, the silence wrapped around me like a new skin. No footsteps, no yelling, no refrigerator slamming in the middle of the night, no voice on the TV muttering that I was being dramatic, just stillness. I walked through the house, slowly barefoot, tracing the marks they'd left behind the scuff on the wall near the stairs, the cracked baseboard in the hallway, the gouge on the floor from the time Deacon threw a chair. I didn't cry. I just picked up a bucket and a brush and started over. I painted every wall, covered each stain with fresh color, hauled out broken furniture piece by piece until the living room looked empty in a way that felt right. Then I opened the door to Deacon's old room. It smelled like sweat and dust and something sour beneath the carpet. I pulled open the windows, scrubbed the corners, and imagined the space differently. By the end of the week, it was unrecognizable light, airy and mine. I moved in a desk, lined the walls with shelves, and unboxed the supplies I hadn't touched in years. Canvas, acrylics, journals filled with sketches I once thought were worthless. I registered for the Chicago program that night, clicked confirm enrollment without hesitation. The air in the house felt different when I closed the laptop. Lighter, quieter, like it had exhaled with me. Chicago didn't save me. It didn't need to. I'd already done that myself. But it gave me space, wide sidewalks, quiet libraries, rooms without echoes of shouting. I found a small apartment with cracked windows and soft light, and for the first time I filled a room entirely with myself. Paintings leaned against every wall. Ink-stained fingers became my normal again. My professors noticed. Clients did too. What started as side sketches turned into commissioned pieces. A marketing agency I admired reached out. After seeing my work online, one deacon had once emailed 7 times without reply. I said yes. I always say yes now. I never told anyone what happened. Not here. I let my work speak. The people who mattered didn't ask what I had survived. They just respected what I had created. Then one afternoon while waiting on the train, I checked my LinkedIn notifications. The message stood out like a bruise. Did you destroy your brother's life to get ahead? No name, no profile photo. But I didn't need one. I stared at it for a moment. I could have ignored it, blocked, deleted, but I didn't. I opened the reply box and typed slowly each word, settling like a truth, long overdue. I rebuilt my own. He just got caught in the collapse. I hit send, then I logged out, tucked my phone into my coat pocket, and stepped off the platform into the cold with a breath that didn't tremble. I had somewhere to be, an opening night for a nonprofit I designed a mural for. My name would be in the program, spelled right, not as an afterthought or under someone else's credit. I hadn't told my family. I didn't need to. They hadn't asked where I'd gone, not once, and I no longer needed them to. I found the necklace the night before graduation tucked in a small velvet pouch at the back of my desk drawer. It was tarnished at the edges, but the pendant still caught the light like it remembered being loved. It had belonged to my grandmother, the only person in my family who ever looked at me like I wasn't just an obligation. Lenora once said it didn't suit me, that it was too delicate and probably better off in a box. But she'd never really understood what strength looked like when it didn't shout. I cleaned the chain gently with an old toothbrush and laid it on my nightstand. In the morning, I put it on before slipping into my gown. It rested over my collarbone light and steady. There was no one in the audience for me. No banners, no camera zoomed in by a proud father, no mother's red eyes or clutched tissues. The seat with my name on it was enough. When they called me forward, I walked slowly, every step measured. The auditorium lights were hot and direct, but I didn't look down. I looked forward. I felt the necklace shift slightly as I moved, like my grandmother was there walking with me. My professors clapped first, then my classmates, then people I hadn't even met. It wasn't loud, it didn't shake the walls, but it was enough. It was real. I took my diploma with both hands. My voice stayed in my throat until I stepped off the stage and found a sliver of shadow near the exit. Then I whispered it, barely audible, but enough for me to hear. This is for every time I was told to stay quiet. Later that night, I stood alone in my studio. The walls were filled now, portraits, bursts of color lines that had once only lived in my head. I dipped my brush in a jar of ochre and held it over a blank canvas, fingers steady. There were no bruises to cover, no screams to ignore, only space and color and the freedom to decide what came next.